Welcome Snoozy friends to the second part of Mother Earth episode. In this part we would be talking about the age of giants and the rise of humans. One favor from our listeners, please do comment how did you like the video, as it helps us to keep making more. Also like and help other Snoozy mates by sharing. Let's begin. Close your eyes, sit back and relax. Long before there were cities, before the hum of machines, before even the first campfires of humankind, there was a planet alive with giants. Forests as tall as cathedrals, oceans filled with toothy leviathans, and on land, creatures so massive they shook the earth with every step. But it did not begin in grandeur. It began in silence. There was a time when earth breathed through giants. Thunder walked on land. The sky sang with wings of leather and bone. And oceans rippled with shadows longer than any ship. It was a time when life reached its largest, loudest, and boldest form. But before that time could arrive, the earth had to quiet herself after catastrophe. The silence after fire, roughly 252 million years ago, Earth endured the worst mass extinction in her 4.5 billion year history. An event so devastating it is called simply the Great Dying. In a blink of geologic time, over 90% of marine species and 75% of land species vanished. The seas turned acidic. The skies darkened with volcanic ash. Oceans lost their oxygen. Massive volcanic eruptions in what is now Siberia are believed to have played a key role, covering the land in lava, flooding the atmosphere with carbon dioxide, and warming the planet by 5 to 8 degrees Celsius. Rain turned acidic. Forests died. Even insects suffered mass die-offs. And yet, life somehow endured. A few species, small and hardy, clung to what was left. In underground burrows, deep ocean trenches, and isolated freshwater lakes. From them, the next age would rise. The age of reptiles begins in the quiet aftermath of the Permian extinction. A new chapter of life began. The Mesozoic era, spanning from about 252 to 66 million years ago. It is divided into three great periods: Triassic, Jurassic, Cretaceous. Together, they make up the age of reptiles, when life grew larger, stranger, and more powerful than ever before. In the Triassic period, the land was still recovering. The supercontinent Pangaea stretched from pole to pole, and deserts covered much of its interior. But along coasts and rivers, life resumed. Ferns, cycads, and conifers returned. And among reptiles, one group began to rise, the archosaurs. This group would split into two key branches, one leading to crocodilians, the other to dinosaurs. The earliest dinosaurs were small, bipedal, and agile. Think of a raptor, a swift predator the size of a dog, or Herosaurus, with powerful jaws and sharp claws. Dinosaurs were not dominant at first. They shared the land with many other reptiles. But over time, thanks to upright posture, efficient lungs, and adaptability, they took over. And so began an age where life roared. The Jurassic boom, by 201 million years ago, another mass extinction. This time at the end of the Triassic, cleared the way for dinosaurs to thrive. The Jurassic period arrived, bringing a warm, humid Earth filled with lush forests, new coastlines, and rising seas. In this world, dinosaurs grew into giants. The sauropods appeared, long-necked, four-legged herbivores like Brachiosaurus, Diplodocus, Apatosaurus. They could weigh over 50 tons and stretch more than 30 meters long. Their necks allowed them to reach treetop leaves without moving much. Their massive size helped deter predators, and their long tails acted like counterweights or even whips. Alongside them were the theropods, bipedal predators. Some, like Allosaurus, hunted in packs. Others stalked solo. Feathers had already begun to appear, not just for flight, but for warmth and display. Dinosaurs were not sluggish lizards. They were warm-blooded, fast-growing, and deeply social. They laid eggs. Some nested in colonies. Some may have cared for their young. And above them, soaring on wings of skin, were the pterosaurs, with wingspans ranging from half a meter to over 10 meters. They were the first vertebrates to achieve powered flight. Below the waves, marine reptiles evolved too. Sleek ichthyosaurs like underwater dolphins, and long-necked plesiosaurs gliding through prehistoric seas. The earth was now vibrant. Forests rustled. Skies flapped. Oceans shimmered. It was a world brimming with sound and scale. Earth in motion. During the Mesozoic, the supercontinent Pangaea began to split. The slow drift of tectonic plates reshaped the world. New oceans opened, like the Atlantic. Islands formed. Climates changed. This drifting influenced evolution. As species became isolated and adapted to different environments. Rainforests covered parts of the globe. Other regions were dry and seasonal. And into these environments, new species continued to emerge. By the Cretaceous period, the last stage of the Mesozoic, dinosaurs had reached their full diversity. The Earth had flowering plants now, angiosperms, which evolved rapidly and changed entire ecosystems. With flowers came new insects, bees, butterflies, and early ants. These relationships shaped the Earth we recognize today. And in the skies, some dinosaurs took to true flight. The earliest birds, evolved from feathered theropods, began flapping instead of gliding. One such creature was Archaeopteryx, a blend of reptile and bird, with teeth and feathers. Life was innovating quickly. The Cretaceous giants. By now, dinosaurs ruled every corner of the planet. Herbivores evolved armor, horns, and massive herding behaviors. Triceratops with its 3 horns and frilled head. Ankylosaurus, built like a living tank. Hadrosaurs, duck-billed dinosaurs, who could communicate with resonating crests. and predators reached their zenith. Enter Tyrannosaurus rex. 13 meters long, 8 tons of muscle, with a bite force stronger than any animal before or since. Despite their portrayal as monsters, T-Rex likely had keen senses, possibly parental instincts, and may have even vocalized. Meanwhile, pterosaurs reached record sizes. Quetzalcoatlus had a wingspan up to 12 meters, as large as a small airplane. It could walk on all fours and launch into flight with powerful leg muscles. The oceans, too, were fearsome. Mosasaurs, pliosaurs, and giant squid-like cephalopods dominated the seas. Every ecosystem was full. Each niche explored, exploited, refined. It was Earth's most extravagant pageant of life. But every age ends. The day the sky fell, about 66 million years ago, a 10-kilometer-wide asteroid struck Earth. It hit near what is now Chicxulub, Mexico, releasing energy equivalent to 100 trillion tons of TNT. The impact vaporized rock, ignited forests, and launched dust into the upper atmosphere. Shockwaves circled the planet. Megatsunamis crashed across coastlines. In days, sunlight was blocked. Photosynthesis halted. Temperatures plunged. This triggered the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event. Nearly 75% of all species vanished, including every non-avian dinosaur, marine reptiles, and many plants. It was sudden. It was global. And it ended the Mesozoic era. But not all was lost. Some birds survived. So did crocodilians. And quietly, in the shadows, so did the mammals. The mammals rise. Mammals had lived alongside dinosaurs for over 100 million years. They were small. Burrowers, climbers, insect eaters. They nursed their young. They had warm blood and sharp hearing. Some even glided between trees. After the extinction, their time had come. With dinosaurs gone, mammals expanded in size, shape, and strategy. They became grazers and hunters, swimmers and flyers, predators and prey. Within a few million years, they had radiated into whales in the seas, bats in the skies, primates in the trees. From these primates, a special branch would evolve, walking upright, making tools, and eventually writing stories like this one. But that tale waits in the next chapter. The echoes of giants, even now, you walk atop their memory. Dinosaur bones rest beneath your feet. Their distant cousins, birds, perch on wires. The oil in your lamp once came from ancient forests and marine plankton. Earth remembers. She stores her stories in stone. The thunder of the T-Rex is long gone, but the ground still holds its footprint. The sea no longer ripples with Mosasaurus, but whales now echo their ancient dominance. In a real sense, life did not end. It adapted. just as it always has. Sleep beneath the fossil sky now. Breathe. Keep your eyes beneath a sky that once dimmed for an entire world. Let your breath slow like drifting dust after the asteroid fell. Imagine fern-covered valleys and the calls of triceratops herds. Hear the screech of Quetzalcoatlus across a lavender dusk. You are resting on a planet that lived through fire, ice, darkness, and dawn. She held giants once. Now, she holds you. Rest, child of the mammals. Rest in the shadow of great bones. Rest knowing you are part of the same story. The one Earth has always told. Written in water, wind, and stone. Now, we walk with humans. The dinosaurs are gone. The forests are quiet. The earth breathes again, softly, as if in recovery. Ash drifts through the air like forgotten snow. But beneath fallen trees and cooling winds, something new stirs. Small, warm-blooded, whiskered. The future is already moving, and the earth is watching. The mammal that watched the stars. 66 million years ago, the earth was reset. The asteroid had done its work, clearing the stage, reshuffling the cast. The world that remained was one of scorched forests, altered climates, and vast opportunity for those small enough to survive. In burrows and bushes, a new lineage of mammals began to multiply. They had fur to keep warm. They nursed their young with milk. They had complex brains, social structures, and a strong sense of smell. They were not large, but they were clever. From these creatures, the next rulers of Earth would arise. Not with claws, not with fangs, but with memory and mind. The epoch of mammals, the next era of Earth's history, is called the Cenozoic era, Greek for new life. It spans from the extinction of the dinosaurs to this very moment. In this time, mammals bloomed. Primates began to evolve in trees, with grasping hands and binocular vision. Ungulates, hooved mammals, spread into plains. Carnivores like early cats and dogs emerged. Whales returned to the sea. Bats mastered the night sky. Forests regrew. Grassland spread. The earth reshaped itself. Mountains rose, rivers carved valleys, and glacier began to whisper their icy touch. Among these thriving mammals were a few small, tree-dwelling primates. And from them, our story would unfold. The rise of the primates to understand humans. We must return to the trees. About 60 million years ago, in warm, dense forests, the first primates emerged. They were small, arboreal, nocturnal. They had grasping hands, forward-facing eyes for depth perception, and a growing brain. Over millions of years, they diversified into lemurs, monkeys, and apes. Their hands became more dexterous, their vision more refined, their brains more complex. Some moved to the ground. Some stayed in the canopy. But among the great apes, Those who walked on knuckles, used tools, groomed each other. Something new was evolving. Self-awareness. The line would split again. And from it, we would rise. Hominins, the human family begins between 7 and 6 million years ago. In the woodlands and savannas of Africa, a remarkable shift occurred. A group of primates began to walk upright. This was the beginning of the hominins, the lineage that includes us, Homo sapiens, and our extinct cousins, Australopithecus, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, and more. Walking upright offered advantages. Free hands for carrying food or tools. A better view across the grasslands. Energy-efficient travel over long distances. The spine curved. The pelvis shortened. The foot arched. And most importantly, the brain began to grow. These early hominins were not just animals. They began shaping their world. They made stone tools. They formed groups. They shared food. And with each generation, something deepened. Cognition. Fire and thought. Around 1.5 to 1.8 million years ago, a new species arose. Homo erectus, the upright man. Taller, stronger, smarter. They spread across Africa, into Asia and Europe. They made hand axes. They hunted in coordinated groups. And most profoundly, they learned to control fire. Fire changed everything. It brought warmth to cold nights. It kept predators at bay. It allowed cooking, making food easier to digest, giving more energy to fuel an ever-growing brain. It gave them a place to gather, to share stories, to form culture. The flicker of flame was the flicker of thought. By firelight, the human journey ignited. The many human species, we often think there was only one human. But history tells a different story. Earth once held many kinds of humans. Each adapted to their own landscapes. Each bearing gifts. Homo habilis, the handyman with his simple tools. Homo erectus, the wanderer. Homo heidelbergensis, who hunted in coordinated groups. Homo floresiensis, the hobbit of Indonesia. Homo naledi, deep in African caves. Denisovans, hidden in Siberian shadows. And the Neanderthals, strong and intelligent, who buried their dead and crafted art. For thousands of years, multiple human species walked the earth together. They may have shared stories. They interbred. They shaped us. Only one would remain. Homo sapiens, wise human. But the others live on. In our DNA. In our bones. In our dreams. The mind awakens. Homo sapiens emerged around 300,000 years ago. In Africa, in the shadows of trees and stone. At first, they were not much different from their cousins. But something was stirring in their minds. They made better tools. They painted on cave walls. They wore ornaments, carved figurines, made music. They began to imagine. The world became not just a place to survive, but a place to express, to reflect, to belong. The human mind became a canvas, and with imagination came migration. Across the earth, around 100,000 years ago, humans began to leave Africa. They followed herds. They crossed rivers and deserts. They hugged coastlines and braved ice. Some moved into Europe, meeting Neanderthals. Others turned east into India, Southeast Asia, and Australia. Still more crossed into the Americas, possibly across the Bering Land Bridge, arriving in waves, hunting mammoths and mastodons. Everywhere they went, they adapted. In snowy regions, their skin lightened to absorb more sunlight. In high altitudes, their lungs changed. In dense jungles, their diets shifted. Humans became a global species, not because they changed the world, but because they changed themselves. And everywhere they went, they remembered. The power of language. We do not know when humans first spoke, but at some point, our ancestors began to shape breath into meaning. Language gave birth to memory, to cooperation, to culture. Through language, we could teach each other. We could imagine futures. We could hold the past. Around fires, words carried emotion. Songs carried tradition. Myths carried truth. Language was our superpower. It built communities. It preserved knowledge. It bound us together. And it allowed one very special kind of magic. Storytelling. The very thing you are hearing now. The first seeds. For most of our history, humans lived as hunter-gatherers. They moved with the seasons, tracked animals, gathered roots, fruits, and seeds. But around 12,000 years ago, something changed. In the fertile river valleys of the Middle East, people began to settle, and they began to farm. They planted wheat and barley. They tamed animals, sheep, goats, cattle. They stored food, built homes, and stayed in one place. This was the Neolithic Revolution. A shift so profound, it transformed the human story. With food security came population growth. With settlements came villages. With villages came complexity. And Earth began to feel our presence. The rise of civilizations. Over thousands of years, settlements grew into cities. Cities became civilizations, rich in trade, religion, art, and invention. In Mesopotamia, humans built ziggurats, developed writing, and tracked the stars. In Egypt, the Nile's rhythms shaped harvests, and pyramids kissed the sky. In the Indus Valley, great cities were laid with precision and plumbing. In China, dynasties rose, silk was spun, and philosophies bloomed. In the Americas, the Olmecs, Maya, and Andean cultures built with stone and time. People mapped the heavens, wrote laws in clay, carved prayers into temple walls. They created calendars, measured eclipses, brewed wine, spun myths. The earth echoed with footsteps, with songs, with language made stone. Writing and memory. Around 5,000 years ago, writing was born. It began as markings for trade, taxes, temple offerings. But soon, it became more. Cuneiform in Sumer, hieroglyphs in Egypt, Sanskrit in India, Chinese characters, runes, alphabets, glyphs. Writing gave humans a new kind of immortality. Memory across generations. No longer did we rely on speech alone. We could write laws, record history, compose poetry. Ideas could travel across lands, across centuries. With writing, we stepped into the historical era. And the past could speak. Light and shadow, the rise of humans brought brilliance, but also burden. As civilizations expanded, so did conflict. Empires clashed. Rome, Greece, Persia, Maurya, Han, Maya. Wars were fought over land, gold, and belief. Slavery spread. Inequalities grew. But so did wonder. Humans built aqueducts, observatories, temples, universities. They discovered mathematics, astronomy, medicine, architecture. They created epic tales, the Iliad, the Mahabharata, the Epic of Gilgamesh. They asked questions. Where do we come from? What lies beyond the stars? What is the soul? And through every age, through every rise and fall, they dreamed of more. The modern acceleration in the last 500 years. Human knowledge has exploded. We crossed oceans, mapped continents, built printing presses, clocks, and telescopes. We studied the stars. We learned of atoms. We discovered evolution, gravity, and the deep past of Earth. We built machines, cities, and nations. We sent voices through wires, images through light. We cured diseases, split the atom, traveled faster than sound. And then, we left the planet. Earth looks back. On July 20th, 1969, a human stood on another world. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. The moon, once a myth, now beneath our feet. But the most powerful image came not from the moon, but from the Apollo 17 spacecraft. It was the blue marble, the first full photo of Earth from space. A swirling sphere of white clouds, blue oceans, and no borders. For the first time, we saw ourselves. One species, one planet, and Earth was beautiful. The age of reflection. Today, we live in the Anthropocene, an age where human activity shapes the planet. We change the climate, move mountains, extinguish species, and protect others. We've created global systems. The internet, satellites, trade, and travel. We've probed distant galaxies and mapped the genomes of ancient humans. We've unlocked secrets and created new mysteries. And in quiet moments, we look back at the cave art, the footprints, the bones, and we realize we are not separate from Earth. We are of her, shaped by her winds, fed by her soil, carried in her gravity. Every heartbeat, every breath is ancient, resting in our story. Now, let your eyes close. Feel the warmth of Earth beneath you. She's been here since the beginning. From stardust to stone, from tide to tree, from moss to mammal, she's held life gently in her arms. You are her child, a descendant of apes, of fish, of single-celled wanderers in ancient seas. You carry a history written not just in books, but in your blood, your bones, your memory. Sleep now, knowing you are part of something immense. A 4 billion year journey, still unfolding. The rise of humans is not the end of the story. It is the turning of a page. Tomorrow, we rise again. But tonight, we rest in the long dream of Earth. Hope you like the playlist.do. Subscribe, share and comment. Good night, traveler. Good night, planet. Good night, stardust.